Hello friends, today we're going to make an autumn scene. As you can see, it's quite bare here in the garden and a lot of the plants have died back. And so this is a perfect time of year to get out the bonsai tools, start pruning back some of these trees and give them a nice shape for the coming year, but we're not going to do that today. Today we're going to make something beautiful from what's already here. So I've got a few species at the ready, including this Chinese elm, which has got some really lovely bronze new growth. And this is just starting to turn. And I think this will be absolutely superb in a couple of weeks' time when all of these leaves are full color. I've also got this trident maple here, which is a very popular bonsai species because it turns a fantastic red color in the autumn. So I am going to show you how to use these two species in a landscape to create a lovely autumn scene. I've got this little tray here, which I'm just going to put down as a base. And then I'm going to add in some substrate. Now this is a shallow tray, so I don't want to fill it right up. I'm just going to leave about half an inch or so at the top. And then I'm going to add a layer of gravel. You could use whatever type of stone you like here. I've got some nice rounded pieces, so I'm just going to arrange them in a pleasing way. It doesn't need to be too neat or anything like that. Just scatter them around, then we're going to add in our first tree. Now, this is the Chinese elm, and as you can see, the color is starting to come through now. These are the new leaves which have appeared this summer, and they're turning this lovely bronze coppery color. The older leaves are still green, but those will turn yellow and drop off soon enough. I'm just going to plant it in the center here. And I'll take these two branches, which are pointing towards each other, and I am going to bend them apart so that they roughly parallel with the sides of the tray. And then I'll fill in around the roots with some substrate. And the reason why I chose this tree is because the color is starting to come through. And that means we've got a bit more time to play with this. We've got a few weeks yet where we can leave it like this and it will continue to develop. In a couple of weeks' time, the whole tree will be this lovely bronze color. And if we look at it from above, we've got this lovely branching structure which looks quite nice. Now I'm going to add in a few more trees. I'm going to use this trident maple, which as I said earlier, is a really good tree for autumn. It turns a nice deep red. And so I'm going to place it to the side here. This one's going to turn red, whereas the elm is going to stay sort of bronzy, coppery. And then I'm also going to use this crabapple tree, which is almost completely red now. There's a couple of green leaves left on there, but it will turn a nice bright red. So I'm just going to put that to the other side. Now the effect we've got so far is okay. It's not great. It needs a bit more depth. So I'm going to get another small tree and I am going to place it right at the back here. Now, this is a Chinese pine, and I mind to bend the branches forward so that they obscure the view of the other trees. And you can see immediately that this adds a lot more depth to the landscape. So although the pines aren't in focus, the fact that they're there, they're part of the scene. They give it a sense of depth. And I'm going to use a technique which I learned from John Yoshio, and he calls this aerial perspective. So you're not seeing the trees from eye level, but you're looking down onto them. And so the further away the trees are, the smaller they appear. So the pines are much smaller than the maples, which are much smaller than the elm. So at the moment, we've got the 3 trees planted and it looks okay, but it needs a bit more depth. So I'm going to add in some smaller trees. These are all in 2-inch pots. So I'm just going to remove them from their pots and break off some of the branches. And I'm just going to scatter them around. So I'm going to have some small trees in the middle ground, some medium-sized trees at the back, and some larger trees in the foreground. So I'm going to put this little Chinese pine here, and then I'll put this little Japanese maple here. And I'll put this crab apple here, and it's really starting to come together now. We've got a nice variety of sizes and shapes. And most importantly, they got that depth created by having the trees further away appearing smaller than the ones in the foreground. Now I'm going to finish it off with some moss. So I've got this piece of reindeer moss here, and I'm just going to tuck it into the crevices between the stones. And that will help to tie everything together. And then I've also got some fine moss here. And I'm just going to scatter that over the top of the substrate. And that will help to hide the substrate and make it look a bit more natural. It's looking good. It's coming together nicely. But I think it needs some flowers. So I've got these dwarf sunflowers. They're a hardy perennial. They die back in the winter, but they come back year after year. And I'm just going to plant a few of these around the base of the trees. And that will give us some height and some extra interest. And then I'm also going to plant some of these cyclamen. They're a spring flowering plant, but they self-seed quite readily. And so we've got these little seedlings here. And I'm just going to scatter them around. And then I've also got some autumn crocus. These will flower in the autumn, but I'm only going to plant one. I don't want too many flowers. I just want a few nice pops of color, so I'm quite pleased with that. We've got a nice scene here. We've got a path running through it. We've got some nice trees. We've got some flowers coming in. It's got a nice feel to it. The only thing that would make this better is if we had some water running through it. And so I've made this little stream here. I've got some rocks and some pebbles, and I'm just going to put them in a line and create a little stream. And then I'm going to fill it with water. I've used a hose pipe here, but you can use a pipe or whatever you like. I'm just going to fill it with water, and then I am going to let it run over the rocks. I think that looks pretty good. It's adding some movement to the scene. It's drawing your eye through the scene. And then it overflows here into this little pool. And then we've got some more pebbles and stones here, and that creates a nice reflection. If we look at it from above, we've got a nice scene here. We've got a clear path which runs right the way through. We've got a stream running through it. We've got some nice trees which are reflected in the water. I think it looks pretty good. Now the next step is to grow it for a few weeks. Then we can come back and see how it's developed. And I'll show you what we've got. Well, it has been a couple of weeks since we made that autumn scene, and I'm very pleased to report that the trees have turned and it looks superb. The Chinese elm is showing off its bronze new growth, and the Japanese maple has turned a lovely red. The pines are starting to turn now as well, and the crab apple has kept its red leaves. I've also given it a light misting. That will help to stop the moss from drying out. And I fed it with some slow-release fertilizer. If we look at it from above, we've got this lovely scene. We've got the stream running through it. We've got the path. We've got some nice trees, and it looks really quite atmospheric. It feels like autumn, but we can improve it further. And so I've made this little waterfall here. It's just a few stones. I filled it with moss, and then I'm just going to let the water trickle over it, and that will help to draw your eye to the most interesting part of the scene, which is the waterfall and the pool. And so from a distance, it looks like this. It looks really quite dramatic, and then up close, it looks like this. There's a little pool here, and then we've got the stream running out into the garden. Thank you for watching.